Hello, this is Group One, and today we're going to be presenting our manager interview takeaways. My name is Thomas Carino. I'm the financial controller at Ilmore Engineering in Plymouth, Michigan, and I've been a professional now for about 9.5 years and a manager for about 6.5 of those. And I'll pass it off to Carolina.
Hey everybody, good afternoon. My name is Carolina Salas. I'm currently a project manager at Omsted Limited. It's a heat exchanger company. I've been at this position for a year and a half and almost 10 years as a professional.
My name is Tommy Story. I'm also a financial controller for an investment company based in Switzerland. I have a 10 years work experience and about 5 of those with managerial experience.
And hello, I'm Erin Weatherhead. I am a project manager and mechanical engineer at the Walt Disney World Company, supporting the Animal Science and Environment Department. I have been with Disney for 9 years and working as a manager for the past 2 years. So we'll head into the rest of our presentation here. So kind of our first takeaway here, we all had some consistent questions that we asked. Our first one that we all looked into were, what are those common characteristics that leaders look into when hiring a new employee? The most common things we found were really a focus on those soft skills, not so much the technical. Really, anyone you're hiring, you're going to have already checked their technical aptitude from their application. So really honing in on those soft skills, and the most common ones that we heard across the board were confidence, positivity, willingness to learn, and good communication. I know for me personally, with my interviews, 2 of them were both from the Walt Disney Company, and positivity was one that came up consistently because so much of what we do, no matter where you work at Disney, you're a cast member, you are part of the show. You want to make sure that if you're interacting with guests, you are doing it in a positive manner because you want to make sure that the guests always have that really good, happy, wonderful, positive experience. So that was something that was really heavily emphasized in my interviews. The next question that we had was, how do you solve problems that involve people you manage? So this one, a lot of what we were hearing was to just step back and learn everything that's going on. You really don't want to be making too emotional of a decision. You want to have a chance to kind of evaluate what's going on, fully understand it. If there's multiple people involved, you want to understand it from all perspectives. And then you also want to make sure that you're working directly with that individual, not just going off of hearsay and then coming into the conversation with that individual. We do have an interview example from one of my interviews. It's with one of our managers for the guest animal experience team. So she does actually manage a group of about 40 to 50 cast members that are all working on show, front of house, interacting with guests every day. So she kind of shares her take on what they do as a team.
What's great is I have a leadership team that reports to me, and we work it out together as a team. We think about what would be best for that cast member. Have they done this before? Is it a pattern? Have we already coached them on this? Is it something that, oh, maybe we didn't train it the right way? So then we have to retrain it ourselves. So we kind of look at it, if it's not something that needs to go to employee relations, as an individual, and decide what do we need to do for that individual, and then reflect it back on us too. And maybe we need to solve the problem because we didn't do our job the right way.
What was really appreciated with this interview was that she kind of shared how she has a whole leadership team, and that not only do they take it to the cast members that maybe had that problem, they reflect it back on themselves to make sure that it wasn't something that they just neglected to train and share with the cast members. So really appreciated that example as just kind of another take on solving those problems.
What's great is I have a leadership team that reports to me.
All right, so I'm going to be taking it over now. Thanks, Erin. And so one of the things that we asked about was attitude in the workplace, and does your attitude have a direct impact on the people you manage specifically? It was very consistent that everybody had echoed Dr. Bowler's thoughts, where, you know, it's important to come in and check in each day and come in to work with a good mindset, right? Things can be going on at home, but trying to not necessarily just bring those into the workplace. Positivity, everybody noted that positivity helps motivate employees and keeps them engaged. It was something that you'll see in the video clip here that I'll play in a few minutes, that it just makes everybody feel more appreciated. It's something that everybody can get on board with. It lightens the mood and makes things seem a little bit less serious, when I think a lot of us can begin to take certain roles a little bit too serious, and the pressures and the stressors can weigh down on us. And the last thing, and I really like this point as well, was understand that everyone's a human, right? We all have bad days. We're all people. We're not robots. We're not just here to produce widgets and try to, be as productive as possible. We're human beings with thoughts and feelings and emotions. And it's important to try to move past things at work or outside of work that can give you a negative attitude that may decrease productivity, but really just understanding that everybody's has emotions and feelings and that every day might not be perfect and moving past that. So this interview is a clip from my friend Steve Stamper. He worked with me at PricewaterhouseCoopers and then now is a senior manager of financial reporting at Wolverine Worldwide, talking about exactly this.
Do you think your attitude has a direct impact on those you manage at work? Provide some examples, if you can, of a time you've noticed that maybe it has or it hasn't, or whatever you feel.
Sure. So first part of that question, 100%, right? Like the higher up you are in an organization, I think a rule of thumb is the more people are talking about you when they're not at work, right? Like we leave work, we're probably talking about something the CFO or the CEO said. As an analyst, when I was an analyst, I was talking about how my manager was behaving, and I think good and bad, right? Like,
yeah,
like, hey, so-and-so was in a really good mood today, or they took the time to coach me through this and it really made a difference in my day. So I absolutely think in a leadership position, your emotions and your responses to things are magnified.
Do you think your attitude has a direct impact on those you?
Perfect. And then the next slide that I'll be talking about here is how do you help a struggling employee continue to develop? Again, really common themes. It feels like all of our managers that we interviewed were largely on the same page with this. It's offer training and coaching to help them develop skills that they're lacking. Maybe they're struggling because they simply don't know how to do it, or they simply don't know how to perform a task, right? That was a takeaway, and then move them to a new position that might be a better fit. I have an example here that at my place of work, and Steve has an example of his place of work, my friend, that they moved somebody from a clerk role to a more managerial role, and it actually improved them because they are better facilitating rather than doing, right? And that's not really normally the case, but that was a really interesting example to me when I was talking through this. And lastly, again, back to that emotional intelligence. Remain empathetic and continue to encourage the employee through their struggles. Understanding that, again, things are difficult and sometimes people will just struggle with something until something clicks, and being an encouraging and supporting person along the way is crucial for that. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Erin and Thomas. So another question we thought it was very important to ask our interviewees was, how do you grow and maintain your professional network? And one of the most common answers was for everybody to join different community groups, be a part of a board, be a board member on a nonprofit organization, and also maybe attend professional social events. And another point was to actively reach out to either in social events or through online platforms like LinkedIn, and of course make effort to maintain those relationships. We thought it was very important for leaders to grow those professional relationships. And for another question we asked our managers was that I also thought it was very important was to learn what the interviewees thought about which skills and attributes make a good leader. And it was very common, very consistent that good leaders lead by example. They also allowed their managers or supervisors to make decisions independently. But when they make their decisions independently, if there is an issue or something, to come up as soon as possible with the problems in order to solve those problems. And another one was to create a positive and creative culture in the workplace.
All righty. One of the questions we asked was, what was some of the best leadership experiences you have seen in your career? And Erin, if you don't mind playing the video before I begin.
Right. At the hospital I work at Hillcrest, our CEO is Xavier, and a lot of times you'll see him in a suit, but then a lot of times you'll see him in scrubs. And the day that he's wearing scrubs, you know that he's been working in the hospital, not just doing meetings, but working directly with people in the hospital doing patient care. So he'll be a nurse tech one day, or he'll follow somebody in lab, or he's followed a therapist for half a day. And he's not just following them, but he's helping, he's hands-on, like he's cleaning up patients. And if that doesn't inspire you to be better, like if this CEO can do these things like in the nitty-gritty, I mean, I just think that's amazing, and that's a great leadership example.
So my interviewee, her name was Avery, and she is the director of therapy at a local hospital here in Tulsa, and she manages about 45 to 50 therapists. And with the example that she sees the CEO doing, putting on scrubs and kind of getting a better understanding of the day-to-day operation, she said this has inspired her to do the same. So once a week, she tries to put on scrubs and get down with a therapist and do day-to-day jobs with them. And that brings us to the point on our first point was energetic and willing to help with tasks that may be perceived beneath their role. That was a pretty good leadership experience, and also being a trustworthy leader, open to feedback, where your employees can come to you and feel comfortable approaching you with their concerns. And then another question we asked was, what was some of the worst leadership experiences you have seen in your career? They consistently mentioned just bad attitudes, closed-minded, and some of the leaders would only check in with their employees during annual reviews, which probably made them much more stressful, demanding certain tasks without any explanations. Employees and leaders would maybe keep secrets to ensure their job security, and then being negative and paranoid. So these are some of our worst leadership experiences that they've faced.
Yeah, and kind of just to bring it all back together. Sorry, Aaron.
Go for it.
We all talked about prior to this meeting that we had key takeaway points. And for me, I guess my big key takeaway was just emotional intelligence and how important it is to be a good manager. You really need to, maybe you don't need to be the most emotionally intelligent person, but you need to at least have a working ability to recognize when people are going through something, or when people are having issues, or you know, it was shocking to me how much keeping your emotions in check, whether it's your personal emotional intelligence or external emotional intelligence, came up in my interviews, and that was my main takeaway.
Go ahead, Erin.
All right. No, that's a great takeaway, Thomas. So I think one of my biggest takeaways really came from the struggling employees, primarily because I just recently went through an experience with an employee that did struggle. It took us the better part of a year to really encourage them to find something different and new, because they came into the role so excited about engineering and project management, and they learned that they hated everything about both of those things. So it took a while to get them to feel comfortable accepting that and learning what they wanted to do next. And they've now moved on to a new role, and they're super happy. So hearing all of those examples that really echoed similar processes, and like that's kind of the way to do it if there's no way to help them to be successful, was really kind of reassuring for me based on that recent experience.
Good. For me, the key learning or takeaway is more general, but honestly, I was very happy to learn from the people that I interviewed. And I'm going to take this with me, that I think there's very good leaders out there who really want their employees to be happy and successful in their positions. And I've only had 2 different positions in my career, but it makes me hopeful for future career opportunities that I'm going to have a good leader, and it motivates me to be one of those good managers for other people.
And then one of the key takeaways through my interviews was the example that one of my interviewees gave, that a good leader is somebody that leads by example in the front, instead of leading from behind, cracking the whip on their employees. I think that was, I've had leaders that have done both, that have led from the front and have been from the back, and the ones from the back are really tough to work with, and you see a lot of high turnover with those type of leaders.
Awesome. All right. I think that wraps it up, everybody. So thank you again for coming together today, and we will talk later.
Nice, thanks.
Thank you.